Hello queens, and welcome back to another book talk video. So today I've been in a bit of a reading slump and I've been recently coming out of it, so I thought today I would give you my recommendations on the best books to read if you're in a reading slump. Now, as always, this is just my personal opinion. If you've read these books and didn't like them or whatever, that is totally okay, but I do love these books. I wanted to start off by giving you guys a quick little update of what I'm currently reading, and I'm currently reading Flock by Kate Stewart, and I'm a little over halfway through. I've been reading this book for a week now, and I must say it's not my favorite. It's good, it's just not my personal favorite. I can see why people would love this, but for me personally, it's not my favorite. Now it might change once I get closer into it, but the writing style and stuff just isn't what I usually go for, but it is I'm into it. So one thing I love and will always love is just a good YA dystopian romance. I'm a sucker for the Hunger Games. I love the Hunger Games. That was a book I read in middle school that got me instantly hooked on reading. But one book series I hardly ever see anybody talking about is the Legend series by Marie Lu. What's funny about this is I actually was gifted this book by my sophomore year English teacher in high school. She was the one who recommended me this book series, and then I loved it so much she gave me the copy out of her classroom, and so it has this weird barcode right here and the pages are yellow. It's been very loved, but this book series is so insanely good. It captivates you and just gives you that dystopian YA romance feeling. Has some romance in it, which I absolutely love. There's 3 books, and I kid you not, I could sit and read the whole book series in one day. I have read this book so many times, and I have read it in one day a bunch of times. It's not super long. It's only 305 pages, which is great. For my people just trying to get into fantasy and stuff other than romance, this is a great start. I'm obsessed with this book, and anytime I'm in a reading slump, this book just will suck me in and pull me right out of it. And I would give anything to read this book series for the first time again. Next, so up until high school, I wasn't really much of a reader, and I acknowledge that 8th and 9th grade me had absolutely no business reading this book series, but it is the book series that got me into reading, and if I'm ever in a reading slump, I read this book series, and it holds a very special place in my heart. It gets a lot of hate, and that's okay, but that is the After book series by Anna Todd. This is my newer copy. This is the copy with people on the cover. I have copies of I have the special edition that just came out, but they're at school. So this is the one copy I have. But anyway, this book, y'all, this is the book that got me hooked on reading. And I think it's just appropriate that it is a One Direction Harry Styles fanfic. But it's just, I don't know what it is about this book and this story that just, I could read this a million times and never get tired of it. I've read the whole book series. I couldn't even tell you how many times. It is just so good. I love the banter. It was the book that got me into reading, okay? And I understand why some people wouldn't like it. It does get cheesy and kind of cringy at some points, but at the same time, it is just so good. I'm willing to forgive all of that. I will accept no criticism on, okay? I will accept no criticism on this book. Like I said, if you don't like it, that is okay. But I love this series. Will always love this series. I have a Hardin Scott candle. He's my book husband. This next one is a pretty popular one all over Book Talk. It took me a long time to read this one. This one's been circulating Book Talk for a while, but once I read it, I literally read it in one day. It was so good. And it's definitely not a 5-star read, but it's just a fun, easy, good read, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I did not know what to expect when I read this book, but I love the way the author wrote it. Again, it's just a fun YA, unserious book that I absolutely loved. It's so much fun to read, and I love how the author included log entries and stuff so you could see the inner thoughts of the characters. I love it when authors do that. Please do more of that. Now, I have not read the full series. I've only read this first book, and I really want to read the rest of them, but I've heard the first book is the best one, and then the other ones are not as good, but the book is just so good. Actually, I'm probably due for a reread of this book. I probably should reread it before I go and buy the whole series, but no, it was just so good. Chef's kiss. Loved this book. Now, if you are in a real bad reading slump and like you just cannot seem to get out of it, you don't want to read anything, this author is always my first recommendation. I have read almost every single one of her books, and anytime I'm in a book slump, she just pulls me in. And the nice part about it for my Kindle girlies, all of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. But that is any Frida McFadden book, not just The Housemaid, but any of them. The Housemaid was the first one I read by her, and I kid you not, I read this book in one sitting. They're short, they're easy, they keep you hooked. The chapters are short, which I really appreciate. I cannot stand books with like 40-page chapters, and the chapters in this book are like 2-3 pages max, which your girl loves. Keeps you hooked the whole time, and in every one of her books, the plot twists are absolutely insane, and you can't see them coming, especially in The Housemaid. I don't know what crack this woman puts in these books, but they are just all so good. And kid you not, I've read almost all of them. Anyway, I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Frida McFadden, if you're ever in a book slump, she will pull you right out, and I love that woman. This next book also, like, captivated me. I was, like, fully invested in the story and the plot, and I've only read the first one. I need to read the rest. But I love it because the chapters are short, and the plot twists and the whole thing is just so good. And I'm also due for a reread of this one. But that is the Inheritance Games books by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the only book in the series that I have read, just because I have not bought the other ones. And I'm not sure if they're on Kindle Unlimited, but this book was so insanely good. I read the whole thing, and again, my favorite part about this is the chapters are literally like so short, like 4 or 5 pages max, which I love. I love short chapters. Any book with a short chapter is sure to have me hooked. This book was so good. The plot twists were really good. The kind of like love interest part of it was really good. And again, it's just a good old YA read. I love somewhat like simple, easy, but like fun YA books because I don't know what the authors put in them. They're just so good. Anywho, The Inheritance Games. I'm not a gigantic fan of this author, but when in doubt, every single one of her books will pull you out of a book slump, and she is responsible for half people getting into reading. This was another book I read in one singular sitting, and I cannot talk about it enough, and that is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I'm not a huge Colleen Hoover fan. Like, her books to me just are not my personal favorites, but this book was 5 stars, okay? It had my jaw on the ground. And it also makes me wonder what goes through Colleen Hoover's head to write a book like this. But it was so good. There was a romance aspect, a mystery aspect, a thriller aspect. It was just so good. And then it all came together at the end, which is another book I love. I love books that keep you wondering until you get to the end, and it just all makes sense, like in the epilogue or something. And that's how this book was. I sat and I read the whole thing in one singular sitting. Kept me hooked. And honestly, all of Colleen Hoover's books are like that. They're really easy. You can sit and read them all in one sitting. And I really wish I would have kept more of my Colleen Hoover books, but it's the only one I own by her anymore. So good. 10 out of 10 recommend. Everybody should read this book. If you're in a book slump, it'll pull you right back out. Anyway, those are all of my top recommendations for books to pull you out of a reading slump real quick. If you have any more, please let me know and drop them in the comment section down below. And as always, if you want more of this content, let me know. Peace, love, and happiness.